Hey guys, we're going to start on a pretty decent sized project. It's going to be a job listing application where we can go and list jobs with certain fields. And you can see this is the home page here. We're using a customized Bootstrap theme. And we have the latest jobs here. And it has they have a title, a job title, a description, and a category. And if I click on the view button, it takes us to a separate page, an individual job post page that has the user that submitted, the date, description, the company name, the salary, and the contact email. All right, and then you see we have a go back link. We also have an edit and a delete button. All right, so we can also filter by category. Okay, so there's nothing in business. Actually, both jobs are in technology, but I can go ahead and edit and change that. Let's say business. Okay, so you can see your job has been updated. Now if we go and choose business, you can see we're getting this one here. All right, we can also create listings. So let's say test listing. We'll choose retail. Job title, we'll say salesman. Description, this is a test. Location, say Boston. Salary, we'll say 60K, and contact email. Submit, and there it is. Okay, and you'll have the latest jobs at the top. All right, so that's what we'll be building in this project. And we're actually going to be using PDO this time to interact with our MySQL database. We're going to be using classes. We're going to create a job class, a template class. We're going to be implementing templates. So it's a pretty decent sized project, and the structure is really nice and something that you could use in future projects. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're going to get started on the job lister application. Now I'm going to really quickly create the database. All right, and I'm going to include an SQL file in the resource files that you can import if you want. So if you go to, if you create a database and then go to import, you can just upload that file, or you can just create it manually. It's not that big. There's only 2 tables. All right, so I'm going to create a database called job lister. All right, and then I'm just going to paste in some SQL to add the fields. Okay, so you can see I'm creating a table called categories with an ID and a name. ID is going to be an int with 11 characters. Name will be a varchar 255. And then jobs, which will have an ID, a category ID, company, job title, description, salary, location, contact user, and contact email. And all except the ID and category ID will be a varchar with 255. All right, and then we're just setting the ID to the primary key in both the categories and jobs table. We're also setting them to auto increment. All right, so let's go ahead and run that. And then if you look at our structure, we have 2 tables. Categories, which just has an ID and a name, and then jobs, which has these fields here. Okay, so you can go ahead and create these if you want, or just upload that file. All right, now let's add some data here, just a couple fields. So let's see, categories, we'll say insert. Okay, so let's say business, and all we need to put is the name. We don't need the ID, it's auto increment. We'll say business, technology, let's say retail, and construction. Okay, so we'll click go, and now our categories, we have 4 categories. All right, so now let's go to jobs and go to insert, and for category ID we'll say 1, which is business, I believe. Company, let's say JP Mortgage. I'm just making stuff up. Job title, we'll say senior investor. Description, I'm going to grab some text from lipsum.com. I'll just grab a couple sentences. Okay, we'll paste that in, and then salary, we'll say 90K. Location, we'll say Boston. Contact user, put my own name, and then contact email, we'll just say brad@gmail.com. Alright, let's add another one here. This will be category 2, which is technology. We'll say tech guy. Job title. Let's say entry level programmer. Description. We'll grab some text. Salary, let's say 50K. Location, we'll say Springfield. Contact user John Doe, and contact email. Okay, and then we'll click go. Alright, so 2 rows inserted. So you can see if we go to jobs, now we have these 2 listings. Alright, so the database is all set for now. Let's go, and I'm going to open up my htdocs folder, and we're going to create a folder here, and we're going to call it job lister. Alright, and we're going to create quite a few files and folders in here. I'm going to open this in Sublime Text as well. Okay, so let's first of all create an index PHP file. Alright, and then let's just make sure that this works. So we'll go to HTTP localhost /joblister, and we get test. Good. Now what I'd like to do is set up our template class, alright? Because I don't want to include all of the HTML inside of these files that we create in the root. I want them to basically point to a template, and then I want to be able to pass values to the template. Alright, so we're going to create in here a folder called lib, and that's where all the classes will go. Okay, all of our libraries. So let's create a file called template.php, and class names I want to have to begin with an uppercase letter. Alright, so we have a template. Inside here, let's say PHP class template. Okay, we're going to include a couple properties here. This is going to be the path to the template, so it's going to be protected, which means that we could extend this class and still use this property. I'm going to call it template, and then we're going to have a variable for the variables that are passed in. Okay, we'll call that vars, and that's actually going to be an array. Alright, let's create a constructor. So we'll say public function __ construct. Okay, and that's going to take in that path variable or property template, and then we're just going to set it to the actual property. So we're going to say this template equals the template variable that's passed in. Okay, we also want to set a get function or a get method to get the template variables. So public function __ get. Okay, and this is going to take in a key, and then what we want to do is return this vars, and then in here will be the key. Alright, and then we also want to be able to set them, so we'll say public function __ set, and that's going to take in the key and value. Alright, so we'll say this vars and the key will equal the value. Okay, so very short methods. And then finally we want toString because we want to be able to basically use this as a string. So public function double underscore toString. Now we want to extract the variables. We want to be able to just use a single variable instead of having to use the key value inside the template. So we're going to wrap it in a function extract and pass in this vars. Alright, so basically what this does, let me just show you real quick. So if we have like template name, okay, we set that and then we want to use it inside the actual template. We just want to be able to use name, okay, instead of using this template name. That's what this is. That's what the extract is going to do. All right, so extract this vars, and we want to define the path name. We're going to use this chdir function, and we want to pass into here dir name, and then the template path, which we can get from this template. Alright, and then we want to be able to output the template. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a buffer using the obstart function. Alright, and then we want to include the template path. So we're going to say include base name and then pass in this template, and then finally after the buffer we need to run ob get clean. Okay, that's what we're going to return. So ob get clean. Alright, and that's it. So this is a template class that you could use in a lot of different projects, and it might look confusing now, but once I show you how it actually works when we instantiate it, it'll be a little bit more clear. Alright, so let's save that. And we shouldn't have to go back into this file. Okay, that's our template library. So now what we want to do is we're going to have to include that file, that class, along with some other files in all of our root files. Now instead of doing the include 5 different files at the top, what we're going to do is create a config file where we can just put all that stuff. Alright, we're going to set up an autoloader too, so we don't have to manually include every class. Okay, so let's go and create a folder here called config, and then we're going to have a file. We'll save it as init.php. Alright, and in here is where we would create all of our requires and includes. So I want to autoload our classes. Alright, instead of doing require once and then going into lib/template.php, alright, because we're going to have a database lib, we're going to have a job class, a job library, and I don't want to have to do that for all of our classes. Alright, and you might add more later on. So it's easier to use an autoloader, and what that does is it'll include the file whenever you instantiate the class. So if we instantiate the template class or the template object, then it's going to require it. Alright, so let me show you how to set that up. So we'll say function, and it's a special function name. It's double underscore autoload. Okay, and that's going to take in a class name, and then we just want to say require once. Actually, we don't need the parentheses. Require once, and it's going to be in the lib folder. So lib / and then we're going to just concatenate here whatever that class name is. Alright, and then concatenate .php. So whenever we instantiate a class, it'll look for that class name as a file. So make sure that your file name matches your class name. Alright, now we're also going to have another config file, which I'm going to call config.php, and that's going to hold our database parameters and all that. So we need to make sure we include that as well. So for that, we'll do require once and config.php. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that, and then in our index.php file we should only have to include that init. Alright, and that's it. So up at the top I'm going to use include once config/init.php. Alright, so let's save that. And unexpected. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Okay, reload. And just to make sure that this is being included, let's just say echo test. Okay, good. And let's make sure, well, we can't see if this isn't being included yet because we didn't instantiate a template object yet. Okay, once we do that, the file will be included. So let's go down here and let's see. Actually, we'll just say template equals new template. Now remember, that's going to take in a path. Okay, so the path to the template we want, it'll be in a templates folder, and we'll call it frontpage.php. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a templates folder. Whoops, what happened? Where is it? There it is. Alright, so inside templates, we'll create a file and we'll save it as frontpage.php. And let's just write in here front page. And then we'll go back to our index. And let's see, we want to echo template. Alright, so we'll save that, reload, and there we go. So now we're loading the front page template. Now we can also add values, dynamic values. Let's say we want to assign template, we'll say template, and then a variable name, we'll say title, and let's set it to latest jobs. So now we should be able to go into our front page template and say PHP echo title. Save that, and there we go, latest jobs. Alright, so we're able to use just title here because of our template class where we did our extraction of our variables. Alright, so this is a really handy class to use in your PHP projects. Now the last thing I want to do is just set up our interface a little bit. We're going to be using Bootstrap. I'm going to use a boot swatch custom file here. Okay, we're going to grab, which one did I use? This right here, Flatly. Okay, so I'm going to grab this link right here. And what we're going to do is, since we're going to be using code on the same page, for instance, the nav bar or the head tags, things like that, we want that on every single page in every template. So we're going to create an includes file. So in the templates folder, we'll create another folder called inc for includes, and I don't know why this isn't refreshing. And then inside there, let's create a file called header.php, and we're also going to create a file called footer.php. Okay, so that's in the inc folder. And inside header, let's put in some HTML tags. We'll put our title, and then we want to link that bootstrap file, so link rel style sheet href is going to go to that link I just copied. And let's also link a custom CSS file. So that'll go to css/styles.css. And then for now, I'm just going to put down here, after the body tag, header. Okay, now I don't want the ending body tag and the ending HTML because that's going to go in the footer. So let's save this, and then we'll go into the footer, and we're going to put our ending body and the ending HTML. Okay, and then up here we'll put in footer. Alright, now in the front page we just want to include both of those files. So PHP include, and that's going to be in the inc folder /header.php. Okay, we want to do the same thing for the footer. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that, and if we go back and reload, now you can see our title says job lister, and if we look at the source code, we have the code from both the header and the footer. Alright, so that's good. Now as far as the HTML, let's go to get bootstrap, and we'll go to get started and then examples, and we're going to grab this Jumbotron, narrow Jumbotron template. So we'll do a Control U, and we're going to grab the div with the class of container down to where the container ends. Okay, so there to there. Alright, and then let's go ahead and paste that in here. And we need to figure out what we need to put in the header, which will be, let's see, from here down to here. Okay, so I want the nav bar in the header. So we'll put that right here. Alright, and then we'll save that. And let's go back to front page, and then let's figure out what we want in the footer. So for the footer, I want the footer tags and also this container div. So we're going to cut that out, and we'll save that and put that inside the footer. Okay, and we'll just change this company here to job lister. Save that. Now if we look at our application, you can see that it's missing something. It's not narrow like the template is. That's because there's a CSS file we need to copy. So right here, this Jumbotron narrow CSS, I'm going to grab everything in there, copy it, and then put that in our custom CSS file, which we need to create. So let's create a folder named CSS, and inside there we'll have a file called styles.css, and we'll paste that in and save it. Alright, so now you can see it looks just like the demo. Alright, it does have different coloring because we're using a boot swatch custom CSS style sheet. Alright, now let's see. You see how we have these two rows down here? I only want one, so let's go to our front page template, and see how we have two of these div class call LG6. I'm going to get rid of the second one. Okay, and then we're going to change this to right here. This will be, that'll be 10, and I'm going to change it to MD10 because I want it to be applied when we're at medium, which is this range here. Alright, and then let's get rid of these two. Like that. And we're going to put another div here with the class of callMD2, and this will be the view button. So we'll give it a class of btn default. For now we'll just say href, and it's not going to go anywhere right now. Okay, save that. And there we go. Okay, we'll have a few of these. Now obviously these are going to come from the database. They're just static just for now. Actually, you know what? We want this row marketing. We want that to be around each set. So let's see, that ends here. I'm actually going to delete that and put it around each set of columns. So right there. Whoop. Okay, we're also going to put it around this one. And this one. I don't know why it does that, why it actually deletes. Okay, so sorry if that's confusing. We just have this row marketing around each set of the 10 column div and the 2 column div. Alright, and now if we reload, they're more separated. Okay, let's see, for the nav bar, let's go into header PHP. For the nav bar, let's change project name to job lister, and we're only going to have 2 links, so we can get rid of that one. And I'm also going to get rid of the active class, and then home is going to go to index.php, and then the second one will be create listing, and that's going to go to create.php, which we don't have yet. Alright, so okay. Alright guys, in the last video we set up the template class so we can now load templates. Now we want to connect to our database, and we want to be able to grab listings and display them on the home page. So we're going to have a database class that's completely dedicated to connecting and fetching data. We'll also have a job class that will be responsible for working with jobs and categories. Alright, so we're going to start off with our config. So in the config folder we have config.php, and we're going to just throw in some PHP tags, and let's add our database parameters. Alright, and these are going to be constants because they're not going to change. So we're going to say define db underscore host, and that's going to be localhost. Okay, we're going to have our db underscore user, which for me is root. We also need the password. Okay, make sure you put your password. And then the DB name, which is job lister. Alright, so I also want to define the site title in here so that we can change it if we need to. So we'll say site underscore title, and we'll call that job lister. Alright, and then we can actually add that to our header right here. We'll say PHP echo site title. Okay, so it's still job lister. So now that we have that config file set up, let's go ahead and create our database class or database library. So I'm going to create a file in the lib folder, and we're going to save it as database.php. Alright, and then what we want to do here is create a class called database. And we're going to set a bunch of private properties here. So we want the host, and that's going to be that constant we just set, db host. We also want the user, which is db user. Pass. And db name. Alright, and then we want a couple more properties down here. One, we need our database handler. So we're going to call that dbh. We want an error property and also a statement. So stmt. Alright, those are our properties. Now let's create a constructor. Okay, we're going to set the DSN. So this is basically a connection string where we include the host, the database name, and so on. Okay, so this has to do with PDO. We're using PDO, which is PHP data objects. It's an alternative way to connect to your database. So let's call this DSN. And we're going to set it to MySQL. Okay, you can actually use other databases with PDO. Postgres is one of them. I think there's about 12. Okay, but obviously we're using MySQL. So we're going to say MySQL host equals, and then we're going to concatenate in here this host. Alright, and then we put a semicolon, and then db name equals, and then we need to concatenate this db name. Actually, yeah. Okay, and then we want to set our options. So let's create a variable called options, set that to an array. Okay, and inside here we're going to say PDO :: adder underscore persistent, and we're going to set that to true. We want a persistent connection. And if you look at the PDO documentation, it'll give you all the different options. There's quite a few. All right, and then we just want to set our error mode. So err mode. Set that to PDO : error mode underscore exception. Okay, so that's the options. And then down here, we need to create a PDO instance. And we're going to throw this in a try-catch block. So we'll say try catch. Okay, so it's basically, this is a way of catching your errors. If you put something in here, it's going to run, and then if there's an error, we'll catch that exception. Alright, so we're going to say this, and then we want to use our database handler, so dbh equals, and then we're going to instantiate our PDO object. You want to pass in that DSN variable, and then this is where we want to put our username and password as well. So this user, and then we want the password, so this pass, and then the options. Okay. And then down in the catch right here, this actually should be parentheses, and we're going to throw in PDO exception and E. So if there's an error, we're going to say this error. We're going to set it to that E object and then get message. Okay, whatever that error message is, we're going to put it inside of this property. Alright, so that's basically how we can connect to PDO or through PDO and through our class. So after the constructor, we're going to create a method called query. Alright, and that's going to take in a query. And then we're going to set it, we're going to use our statement. We're going to say this stmt, and that's going to equal this dbh, which is our database handler, and we want to use prepare. Okay, we're using prepared statements here, and then just pass in our query. Alright, and that's all we need for the query method. So when we have values that we're working with, we need to bind those values. So we're going to create a function called bind. Okay, and this is going to take in param, value, and type, which is optional, and we're going to set it to a default of null. Alright, so first we're going to check to see if type is null. So we're going to say if is null, and then pass in type, okay, which it is by default. Then we're going to use a switch statement, okay, which is just a conditional. We're going to say switch true, and then basically this is going to be set up for the different types of values: an integer, a boolean, and a null, and a string, which will be the default. So I'm actually going to paste the cases in here. Alright, so we're saying if it's an int, okay, if it's an int, then we're going to set the type to PDO param int. This is, I don't like this indenting. Okay, so if it's a boolean, then we're going to set it to param bool. If it's null, we'll set it to param null. And if it's none of those, then we're going to set it to string, param string. Alright, and again, this, just like the template class, this is something that you can use over and over with different projects. Then we just want to go after that if statement, and we're going to say this stmt bind value, and then just pass in param, value, and type. Alright, so that's the bind function. The next one we want is execute. So public function execute. Okay, and whoop. All this is going to do is return return this statement execute. Okay, next we have our result set. So when we fetch the data from the database, we're returning it as a result set. So let's say public function result set. Okay, and then we're going to run at the execute that we just created. We can say this execute. Alright, and then we want to return as a statement. So this statement fetch all. Alright, and then you can tell it what you want to fetch it at, what you want to return it as. Alright, so an associative array or what. So we're going to return it as an object. So in here we'll say PDO double underscore fetch underscore obj. Okay. Now this may be a little confusing to you, and this is actually one of the easier PDO classes. You can see the functions are really small. There's some really complicated ones, so I'm trying to keep it as short as possible and still give us the functionality we need. So hopefully it's not too bad. So the last one I'm going to put in here is the single function, and that's going to be responsible for fetching a single value. All right, because if we're fetching, for instance, all of the jobs, that's going to be returned as a result set. If we're getting one job, then we want to return that as a single value. So we'll say public function single. Okay, and I'm going to grab this. And let's see, this right here, the only thing different is going to be instead of fetch all, we just want fetch. Alright, and that should do it for our class, for our database class. So let's save this. Alright, now this is not dependent on the jobs or this application. You can use this anywhere. Okay, so we're going to extend our job class. We're going to extend it to the database class so we can use this stuff inside of that class. Alright, so let's go ahead and create that. So inside lib, we're going to create another folder. Another file, and we're going to save it as job.php. I don't know why this isn't refreshing. Alright, so inside job, let's create a class called job. And we're going to create a property here called db. And then we'll add our constructor. Okay, and then we're going to instantiate our DB object with the database class. So we're going to say this DB, and we'll set that to new database. Okay, so we're instantiating the database class. We're putting it inside of this object right here. Alright, so then we'll create a function to fetch all jobs. Alright, so let's put a comment here. So we want to say public function get all jobs. And then we can use that database class. We can say this DB query. Alright, since we're using this database class, we can use this query right here, this query function. So that's what we're doing here. Alright, so let's pass in the query. We'll say select all from, let's see, I want to get all the jobs fields, but I also want to join in the categories table so that we can get the category name. Alright, so we're going to say select, let's say jobs.all, so everything from the jobs table. And then we're going to put a comma there, and we're going to say category or categories.name. And let's select that as CNAME. Okay, so that's an alias. We're just going to be able to use this for our category name. Alright, now I'm not going to go over the queries too much because we do have an SQL section in this course. Alright, but what we want to do is we want to inner join the categories table. Alright, so let's go right here and we'll say inner join categories. And we want to join it on jobs.category ID, and we want to set that to categories.id. Alright, so this is the primary key in the categories table. This is the foreign key in the jobs table. Alright, and this actually should be up here. So from jobs. Okay, so from jobs. And nope, that should be before the inner join. From jobs and then inner join categories on this. Alright, and then the last thing I'll put is an order by, because I want to order by date. So order by, oh wait a minute, did I even put a date? I don't think I did. Let's see, jobs. No, we don't have a date field, so let's go ahead and add that. So if we go to structure, and we'll say add one column, we'll call it post date, and let's set it to a timestamp, and then the default we'll set to current timestamp. Alright, and I'll edit the SQL file that's included. So let's see, order by post date, and let's make that descending. Alright, so that's our query. Now after that, we want to assign the result set. So we'll say results equals this DB result set, and then we just want to return the results. Okay, we'll save that, and now we should be able to use this function. So let's go to our front page PHP. I'm sorry, not front page, index PHP. And we want to create the job object up here. So let's say job equals new job. And let's see. Let's go down here, and we're going to assign a template variable of jobs, and we're going to set that to the job object, and then we want to call the get all jobs that we just created. Okay, and then we should have access in our template to those jobs. Okay, let's make sure there's no errors. That's not it. Okay, so let's go to our template now, which is front page PHP, and go down to this area. Now I just want one of these rows, so we can get rid of this one and this one. Alright, and then what we want to do is wrap this row div in a for each. Alright, so let's do PHP for each, and then we'll end it down here. And let's say for each jobs as job, and then in here let's get rid of that, and we'll say PHP echo job underscore title. Okay, and then this will be the description. Okay, let's save that. Reload, and there we go. So now we can see the jobs that are in the database. Alright, so we're now seeing the jobs from the database. We're seeing them on the home page. So what I want to do now is I want to be able to filter by category. So we're going to have a form in this Jumbotron area to select a category. Alright, so before we start to edit the HTML here, let's go to index PHP, and we need a way to get a list of the categories so that we can fill the select box, because I don't want to have a static select box. I want them to come from the database. So let's set a template variable here. We'll say template categories, and we're going to set it to job get categories, which we don't have yet. We have to create. Alright, so let's save that, and then we'll go to our job class in the lib folder, and let's create that function. So I'm actually going to just copy this, and then this is going to be a really easy query. We're just going to say select all from categories. Okay, then we're going to get the result set and we're going to return that. So let's save it, and now we should have access to it from within our template. So let's go to templates and then front page PHP up to where we have the Jumbotron, and let's change the heading here. We're going to change that to find a job. Alright, and then under that we're going to have a form. So we can get rid of this paragraph and the button. And we're going to put in a form. And let's put a select. And we'll give this a name. We'll give it a name of category. And I'm also going to give it a class of form control. Alright, now in here, let's put an option, and I'm just going to set the value of this to 0, and we're going to say choose category. Okay, now the rest of them have to go within a for each loop because we want to loop through the categories and then output them. So let's do PHP for each. And in here we should be able to say categories as category, and then let's grab this option. Now the value is going to be the ID, so PHP echo category ID, and then the text will be the name. Category name. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that and reload. And now you can see that we're getting our categories from the database. So that's what we want. As for where this form is going to go, it's going to go to the index page, but I want it to be a get. Okay, since we're not actually submitting data to the server, we're going to make it have a method of get. Okay, and then the action will be index.php. Okay, so it's going to submit to index.php, and what we want to do is we want to test to see if that value is in the URL. Because if I go and I select business, and we need a button, we don't have a form submit button, so let's go ahead and add that. That's going to go under the select. We'll say input type submit, and let's give it a class, and let's see, we'll give it a class of btn, btn lg, and btn success. Okay, and then the value, we'll say find. Okay, let's put a line break under the select. So business, find, and now up here in the URL you'll see we have category equals 1. Okay, business is category 1. So we want to check for that. So let's go to index.php, and let's go up here and say category equals, and we'll say is set. So this is going to be a shorthand conditional. So if set get category, then get category else null. So what this is saying is that if there is a if there's a category in the URL, we're going to set this variable to it. If not, we're going to set it to null. Alright, and then down here we can test for it. So let's see. We'll say if if category, then what do we want to do? All right, now instead of this get all jobs, we want to call something else, okay, which will get just jobs from that category. So what I'm going to do is just grab these two lines and cut them and put them in the else. Okay, so if there's no category, nothing's changed. It's just going to load what it's been loading. But if there is, then we're going to call template, we'll say template jobs is going to equal job, and we'll have a function called get by category. Okay, and then we'll just pass in here category. All right, now I also want the title to say, for instance, latest jobs from business or latest jobs in technology. So we're going to set the title as well. We'll say template. Actually, we'll do that after. Let's just do this for now. So we need to create get by category. So let's go to our job class. Okay, and we'll say public function get by category. Okay, that's going to take in a category. And this is going to be very similar to get all jobs. So I'm going to copy this and then paste that in here. Okay, and then all I want to do is I want to create a where clause right here. So we'll say where jobs dot category ID is equal to the category that's passed in. All right, and then everything else will be the same. So let's save that, and let's see, let's go ahead and try it. So if I choose technology and find, you see it returns entry-level programming. If I go to business, find, senior investor, retail, there's nothing for retail. Okay, so that's working good. Now for the title, let's go back here. Yeah, and we're going to say template title, and let's set that. We'll say jobs in, and then what we'll do is let's concatenate here. We'll say job get category, which we have to create, and we're going to pass in category, and we want the name, so we'll say name. Alright, now if I save that and reload, we're going to get an error if we go ahead and find, because we don't have get category. So let's go create that inside of our job class. Okay, we'll pass in the category. And we're going to do this DB query, and let's pass in select all from categories where ID equals colon category underscore ID. Alright, now this colon category ID, this is a placeholder. Okay, we have to bind the value. So for that, we're going to do this db bind, and let's pass in colon category ID, which should be in quotes, and then category ID, which should be passed in up here. Okay, and then we'll assign the row. Okay, so we're going to use the single method, or this db single, and then we're just going to return the row. Alright, and that'll give us a single category along with the name. So let's go ahead and say business, and we didn't include it in our template, so let's go to our front page, and let's see, let's go right above the for each. We'll put in an H3 and say PHP echo title. Okay, so there we go, jobs in business. And if we're just on the regular home page, it says latest jobs. So we can now filter by category. Alright, so we can now filter our jobs by category. We have them listed on the home page. Now what we want to do is create our individual job pages. So we want this view link right here. We want that to go to job.php, and we also want to pass along the ID. So let's go to, let's see, templates, front page PHP, and this is the view link right here. So we're going to make this go to job.php, and then we're going to add a parameter. We're going to say ID equals, and then echo job ID. Okay, so reload, and you can see up here job PHP ID equals 1. Okay, now we need to create that job PHP file. We're going to create that in the root. So let's say new file and save it as job.php. And I'm going to copy what we have in index.php, paste that in, and let's change the template. I'm going to change it to template/job single.php. That's going to be the template name. Now we want to get the ID from the URL, so right here we'll change category to ID, and then change this and this. Okay, so if there's an ID parameter, it'll get put in this variable. Alright, and let's actually call this job_ID. Alright, now we can get rid of all this stuff here, this if category. Okay, and then as far as variables, we just need the job itself. So template job, and that's going to come from a function in the class called getJob. Alright, we're going to pass along the job_ID that we're getting from the URL. Alright, so let's save that. And then we need to create the template. So inside the templates folder, let's say new file, and we're going to save it as job-single.php. Okay. And for now, let's say PHP echo job title. Okay, now that's not going to work yet because we don't have this getJob method yet. So let's go create that inside of the job library. Okay, so down here, let's say public function getJob. Okay, that's going to take in an ID. And I'm going to grab this, what we have in get category, and we'll paste that in here. And then let's change the query. We want to select, actually let's do select all from jobs where ID equals ID, and then we'll bind that. Okay, bind ID to the variable ID, and then we're assigning the row and returning it. So let's save it, and now if we go and click view, you can see we're getting the job title. Alright, now we want the rest of the template in this page as well, so we need to add our header and footer. Okay, so I'm just going to grab this from the front page. Put that there, and we also want the footer. Okay, so let's add the rest of the data and make this look alright. Actually, I'll put that back, and that's going to go in H2 with a class of page header. Okay, and then under that, actually, you know what? Let's put the location next to it in parentheses. So right next to it, we'll say PHP echo job location. All right, and then under that, we'll put some small tags. Okay, and that's going to say posted by, and then we want the user, the contact user. I'm pretty sure that's what the field was called. And then we'll say on, and then let's echo the date, post date. Alright, let's save that. Okay, there we go. And then underneath the small tags, I'm going to put in a horizontal rule, and then a paragraph, and inside the paragraph we'll have the description. And I'm actually going to give this a class of lead. And then under the description, we'll put a UL with the class of list group. Okay, and then each list item will have a class of list group item. And let's see, and here we're going to put the company. I'm going to put it inside strong tags, the label, and then PHP echo job company. Okay, we're also going to put the salary, so I'm going to copy that, paste it in twice. This one's going to be the salary. Okay, then we're also going to have the email, contact email. Alright, now we're going to also put a go back button so that we can get back easily. So let's put a couple line breaks. Okay, this is going to go to index.php, and it'll say go back, and then a couple more line breaks. Okay, reload, and there we go. There's our job listing. Okay, nothing special, but it has all the data we need. Alright, so we can now view our jobs. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to create our form so that we can add a job through our application interface. Okay, we're going to create a file in the root called create.php. Alright, and let's for now just copy what we have in index. And we're going to change the template here to job-create.php. And we don't need this or this. We do want this because we're going to have the select list of categories, so we need to get the categories. So let's go ahead and save it, and then in our templates folder we're going to create a file, and let's save it as job-create.php. Okay, and that'll be our create form. Alright, so I'm going to grab the let's grab the header include here, and also the footer. And let's put an H2 here with the class of page header. Okay, and we're going to say create job listing. And then we'll have our form. So the form is going to have a method of post and an action of create.php. Okay, so let's put in a div with a class of form group, and inside here we'll have a label, company, and then an input. Okay, this will be a text input, and we're going to give it a class of form control, and then a name of company. Okay, so that's our first field. Let's go ahead and save it and see if we can go to up here, create listing, and there we go. Alright, now we're going to have quite a few fields here, so I'm going to copy this, paste it in a few times. Okay, so after the company we're going to have our select box for categories. So let's change this to category, and this input here is actually going to be a select, and the name is going to be category. Okay, and we need to loop through our categories. So what I'm going to do is just copy the one we have on the front page here. So we'll grab this option and then this for each. Okay, and we'll paste that in there. Save that, check it out, and there we go. Alright, so after the category we're going to have the job title. Okay, change the name. Then we'll have the description. But I'm going to make that a text area, so let's replace this. Name will be description. Okay, that needs a closing text area tag as well. And then after the description we'll have location. Then salary. And then we want our contact user. And then the contact email. Okay, then let's go ahead and put in our button. It's going to be a submit. Give it a class of btn, btn default, a value of submit, and I'm also going to give it a name of submit. Alright, let's save that. That should do it for the form. Okay, so now what we want to do is when we submit this, it's going to submit to create.php. So let's go there. And what we want to do is check to see if it's been submitted. So we'll do an if. We're going to say if is set post submit. And then what we want to do is grab all of the data from the form and put it into an array. Okay, this is kind of long, so I'm going to just paste this in. Okay, so we have a data variable set to an array, and then we're setting these job title, company, category. I think the only one I'm missing here is contact user, so let me just throw that in. Okay. And then what we want to do is pass that to a function in our class, but we're going to stick it in an if statement to make sure that it actually works. So say job create, and then we're going to pass in the data. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to be able to redirect, and I don't want to have to use the header function. So we're actually going to create a helper file with a redirect function. Alright, so it's going to look like this. It's going to take in the location, which will be index.php. It's going to take the a message that it can display. So we'll say your job has been listed. And then it's also going to take in a third parameter, which will be either success or error. Okay, and this is we're also going to create a helper that will display an alert that'll be either red or green depending on if it's a success or an error. Alright, and then we'll do an else. And I'm just going to copy this. Okay, and if it doesn't work, then we're going to say something went wrong, and that's going to be an error. Alright, so before we create that redirect and all that, let's do this job create. Alright, so let's go into our job class. Okay, we'll say public function create, and let's pass in here that data array. Now this part I'm going to paste in. Okay, so we have an insert query, and basically we're just saying insert into jobs, and then all the fields, and then values, and all the placeholders that we need to bind to. Alright, so now under that we'll say bind data, and let me just grab this and paste this in. Okay, so we're binding each value here. Just yeah, okay, so we're binding, whoops, we don't need that. Okay, so all of the fields up here, we're binding down here to the value that's in the data array. Alright, and then we need to execute it. Okay, so we're going to say if this db execute, then we're going to return true. Okay, else, then we want to return false. Alright, and we'll save that. Now to create this redirect function, we're actually going to create a folder in the root of the application, and we're going to call it helpers. And then inside there I'm going to create a file and save it as system_helper.php. Now I'm going to paste this in. Just tab this over. Alright, so redirect takes in a page, which by default will be false, message, which will be null by default, and then message type. And basically what we're doing is we're taking in a path, and we're going to redirect using header. Okay, that's nothing special, but we're also taking the message and then the message type and we're putting them into session variables so that we can access them after we get redirected. Okay, because we want to redirect first and then display the message. But if we try to display the message and then redirect, well, that's not going to work out. Alright, so we also want a function to display the message. Alright, not only display the message, but also unset the session variables. Alright, so we're going to check for a message in the session. We're going to assign it, and then we're going to check to see if it's an error. If it is, it's going to send out this with alert danger. That'll make it a red message. If not, then it'll be green with alert success, and then it's going to unset the messages down here, the message and the type. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that. Now in the config file in init, we need to add a session start up here. Okay, in order for these session variables to work. So we just want to say session start. Okay, and we also want to include that helper file. So we'll say require once, and let's say helpers slash system helper dot PHP. Okay, we'll save that. Now, the last thing we want to do before we try it is we need to run this display message somewhere. So we're going to put that right in our header. Okay, so right at the bottom here. We're going to say PHP display message. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this. Whoop. Let's see, system helper on line 3. Oh, missing the ending parentheses here. Okay, so create job listing. Let's say 1, 2, 3 communications, technology. We'll grab some text. Oh, that's the description. The job title, we'll say database admin, location, we'll say New York, salary 70K, contact user John Doe. Okay, let's go ahead and submit. Your job has been listed, and there it is. Alright, so that display message is taking care of this for us, showing us that message. And then the redirect obviously redirected us to the home page. Alright, so we're almost there with our application. We just want to be able to delete and update these job listings. So we're going to add a couple buttons to the job page. So let's go to our templates and then jobsingle.php. And we're going to go down under the line breaks down here and create a div, give it a class of well, and then inside there we're going to have, first of all, an edit button. Okay, so this is going to go to, let's see, this is going to go to edit.php, and it's going to pass along the ID as a parameter. So job ID. Okay, we'll give it a class of btn default. And let's see, say edit. Okay, so that's the edit button. Now for the delete, we're going to do something a little different. This is actually going to be a form. Okay, it's going to be a form with just a button. And I'm actually going to give it a style attribute because we want it to display inline, so it's to the right of the edit button, not underneath. So let's say display inline. All right, and then we're going to say method equals post, and action is going to be job.php. Okay, now this is going to have an input. It's going to have the type of hidden. Okay, we just want to send along the ID, so we're going to give it a name of del_ID, and then a value, and in here we'll do PHP echo job ID. Okay, then we want a button or an input with the type of submit. Okay, we'll give it a class of btn danger, and let's give it a value of delete. Okay, save that, reload, and now we have an edit and delete button. So let's take care of the delete first. Okay, we're submitting to job.php, so let's go to that file. And we're going to check for that post value. So right here, let's say if, we'll say if is set post, and we're looking for the post value del_ID. Okay, so if that's set, then let's create a variable called del_ID and set it to that. Okay, then we're going to do if, and we're going to have in the job class, we'll have a function called delete. So if job delete, and then we just want to pass along that del_ID value. Okay, so if it deletes, then we're going to call redirect, and let's pass along the path index.php, and then the text, we'll just say job deleted, and that's going to be a success. Whoop. Success. Okay, and then if not, we'll just say job not deleted, and we'll change this to an error, which will make it red. Okay, let's save that, and then we need to go into our job class, and let's go down to the bottom here after create. Okay, we'll say public function delete, and that's going to take in an ID, and I'm going to, actually I'll just grab this from create. Okay, and let's clear out this query, and then just get rid of this binding. So the query is going to be delete from jobs where ID is equal to the ID that's passed in. Okay, that should do it. Let's save it. Okay, so we'll go back and let's see. Entry-level programmer will view delete, job deleted, and it's gone. Okay, so we can now delete them. Now we want to be able to update listings. So let's create, in the root, we're going to create a file called edit.php. And let's see, in here, this is going to be similar to create, so I'm going to just copy everything we have in there. Okay. Now we're going to be checking for an ID just like we did in job PHP. So I'm actually going to grab this, put that there, and instead of calling job create, it's going to call job update, And in addition to the data, we want to pass along the job ID so it knows which one to update. Okay, and then here we'll say your job has been updated. And then the template is going to be not job create, but we'll say job edit. Alright, so let's see. We also need to grab the job itself. So just like we did in job PHP, right here, we're going to grab that. Alright, so let's save that. Now we'll create the template. So in the templates folder, we'll create a file and save it as job-edit.php. And then this is going to be the same form that we have in create, so we're going to just copy all of that. Okay, except let's change it to edit job listing up here. And then the action is actually going to go to edit.php, and then we want to send along the ID as well. Like that. And then our values, we're going to have values in our inputs. So value is going to be PHP echo job, what is this, company. So I'm going to copy that value. Alright, and the select, we'll do that in a second. Let's do these text ones. Okay, this one will be job title. And this is a text area, so we don't need the value, we just need that. This will be job description. Okay, this one, location. This one is salary. Contact, email. Okay, that should be good for the inputs. So let's save that and let's see if we can actually see the page. We click edit. Alright, so there's our form. Now notice the category is not chosen. We need to treat this a little different than the inputs. We're going to go, let's see, we're going to go right here and say PHP if. It's going to have an else as well. Okay, so if job category ID is equal to category ID, then let's cut out, let's see, oh, you know what? We want this to be in the for each, so I'm going to cut this. And we want to put this right here. Alright, and then we're going to take this option and cut that. And let's paste that in both of these. Except this one here, we want to add right here, selected. Okay, so if the current iteration of the category is what the main job, the current job ID, category ID is, then it's going to say selected, which will make that the default choice. So let's save that and reload, and you can see we get technology. Okay, if I click on this one, edit, we get business. Alright, so the form looks good. Now when we submit it, it's going to go to update, which we can see right here. It's going to go to job update, so we need to create that. So let's go to our job class, and I'm going to copy what we have for create. Okay, we'll put that here and then change it to update. Okay, and it's also going to be taking in an ID. And the query is going to look pretty different, so I'm going to just get rid of it. And I'm going to paste this one in. Okay, so we're going to say update job set, and then we're going to set each one, except I'm missing the contact user. Okay, and then binding is going to be the same down here. And then everything else should be the same as well. So let's save that. Okay, and then we're going to go and let's go to this job here, view, edit. Let's change it to 1, 2, 3, 4 communications. Submit. And let's see, we're getting an error. And why is that? That's because there's no, I forgot a comma right here. Alright, so let's go ahead and try that again. It has been updated. Now if we say view, now it says 1, 2, 3, 4 communications. Alright, so we can now update listings.